All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this exclusive webinar with Barchart and CME Group, where we'll be discussing CME Group's DataMine platform, as well as a few of Commodity by Barchart's datasets, which are available to consumers within DataMine. So I'd like to do some brief introductions, starting first with myself. My name is Colleen Sheeran. I'm the head of marketing here at Barchart, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. I'm joined by Tim Andriesen, who is CME Group's Managing Director of Ag Products, as well as David Gresky, who is the head of global data sales at CME Group. Lastly, our final panelist is Keith Petersen, who is Barchart's head of strategy. So first off, thank you to all three of you for joining me today.
Our pleasure.
All right. So as I briefly mentioned, today we'll be giving attendees an overview of CME Group's self-service DataMine platform, where users can go to download a wide range of historical, alternative, and analytical datasets. We'll then give viewers a closer look at the Commodity by Barchart data that's available within DataMine. That includes our crop production and yield forecasts, as well as our benchmark grain basis and price indexes. Lastly, we'll have a roundtable and Q&A with all of our panelists, where we can discuss things like use cases and different ways to access the data. So before we get started, just a reminder that if you do have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to submit those using the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. All right, to kick things off, I'd like to give the floor to David Gresky, who will talk a bit more about CME DataMine.
Thank you, Colleen, and thank you to everyone who's in attendance, and hope people are safe no matter where they're at today, and taking a few minutes out with us. So we really appreciate your time and effort today. As Colleen stated, my name is David Gresky, and I lead the global data sales team at CME Group. Today, we're really here to help inform the marketplace around our new collaboration with Barchart through CME DataMine. As I said before, we do appreciate the attendance, and we really welcome any questions that you might have at the end, as we're hoping to have an active conversation. So to kick off, for those that aren't aware, DataMine is CME's self-service platform for access to CME's historical and third-party content. Our goal since the launch of this platform in 2016 has always been to make such data more widely known and available to the global marketplace than really wherever it was prior to that date. Since that time, it has grown as an overall offering to a point where we have several thousand active customer subscriptions pulling from the site every single day. And we have really an average of over 50,000 visitors to the site every month. Some of which are just looking for certain types of information. Others are setting up active subscriptions, and sometimes people just want a one-time download of data. And across our data portfolio, we have both fee-waived and free data sets that are on there, as well as some that need to be licensed and are fee-liable. And one of the things I think is important to mention there is that the customer base of DataMine is really the customer base of our exchange and then some. It really ranges across all customer segments, from global investment banks to proprietary trading firms to commercials and energy producers, to hedge funds and asset managers on the buy side, all the way through retail customers, government, academics, and even individual people who are looking to educate themselves in one way or another, utilizing price data that's out there. So it's really the entire gambit. Since we launched this site, our global reach has increased significantly, as we're kind of proud to really state that over 50% of our customers that are on DataMine and accessing it on a regular basis are international and not domiciled in the United States. So it really has shown our global growth as well. When we launched the site in 2016, I think we started with about 5 different data sets. And one of our focuses has been to continue to add relevant content over the last several years. And today I'm proud to say we're up to about 34 data sets. And I think last year, I'm not even sure how many we added, but really it's a wide range of content, right? A lot of what people come to CME for is price data, looking at any of our historical data that we might have had that goes back all the way to the 1970s, from things that are relatively simple like settlement data and high-low volume, all the way now to our most granular data sets, which are really like our packet capture data, where you can get every single message that's being produced in our real-time feed. In addition to that, we've begun to include different types of internal data to CME, like certain types of anonymized clearinghouse data, like our register reports that give indications into stocks of grain and metals deliveries, as well as new in-house analytic data sets that have been built by CME, like our liquidity tool, that give insight into historical bid-ask spreads and depth of book. So And really lastly, from a CME perspective, we're also completing the integration of our next acquisition from 2 years ago. And you can now find BrokerTech US Treasuries, GovPicks, and Premium FX data sets that are all on our platform today. But outside of CME's content, we have also had a focus on being able to add third-party content that has relevance to our marketplace and really helps our customers better be informed on both their trading and risk management decisions. And the latest of which is Barchart and the grain indices that we're going to discuss a little bit today, which we see as a really nice complement to the agricultural futures and options price data that's already available on DataMine today. Barchart continues to innovate in this space, and we're delighted to collaborate with them to help advance their content to the broader agricultural customer base that CME currently caters to. And really, we like to spend the rest of the time really digging in a little bit more. And as I mentioned before, really broadening that education on this front. So hopefully you all are able to learn a little bit more about that today. So thanks, Colleen.
Thanks, David, for that really great overview of DataMine. Definitely a lot of cool data sets available there. And we're excited to have our data be a part of that as well. I'd now like to shift over to Keith Petersen, who will talk a little bit more about Commodity by Barchart's best-in-class commodity indexes and how they can be used to spot opportunities and help make better decisions around your business. So let me go ahead. I know, Keith, you have a few slides. You should have gotten access there.
Perfect. No, that's fantastic. Thanks, Colleen, and yeah, thanks, David, for the great introduction. I mean, we're very excited to partner with you guys and be on the DataMine platform. What you guys have built is really phenomenal. The amount of content that you have on there, how it aligns with the core futures offering and all the stuff that you're doing with your the integration of Next and all their cash products as well. So the platform is amazing, and the reason we wanted to be on it is because it's strategic. I mean, you guys integrate stuff that makes sense for your users to have access to. It's differentiated from some of these other data marketplaces that are out there by some of the the big tech firms. And yeah, we're totally we're very excited about what it looks like. So yeah, I do have a couple slides to pull up here. Let me. Colleen, it is not letting me share my screen.
Can you try it now?
Yeah, here we go.
There you go.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so just a little bit about Commodity by Barchart. So this is our product line that's really focused on agricultural and commodity markets. Is through a couple different channels: data, workflows, and technology. And data is taking pulling together content that's relevant to the commodity markets, specifically agriculture, and from this perspective, and then distributing that out to people however they want it. Workflows, for those that don't know, we do a lot in terms of facilitating workflows for agribusinesses, helping them distribute their content, their prices out, and actually completing the physical transaction between the farmer or the grower and the grain merchandiser at the elevator. And then technology. Right, so we have software and data distribution tools that really just help our clients take advantage of all the things that they do. So at the highest level, Commodity by Barchart, our product line focused on commodities, is the leading provider of pricing data, analytical tools, and workflow solutions for agricultural markets. And that's the reason we're able to kind of make all this data available, is because we touch so many parts of the ecosystem. And I'll show that a little bit more in depth. Actually, next slide here. So our data catalog is quite vast, as you can see. So we cover pretty much all the global exchanges. CME is on there, ICE, of course, as well, and anybody else that's relevant to what we do. We also cover things that are equity index related, fundamentals, but really kind of moving across the screen, commodity fundamentals as well, right? So we integrate data from all of the major, I'm going to call them service bureaus throughout the ecosystem, and we make those available in our over API or in our software. And then we partner with third parties as well. So our pricing network, Clipper Data, is one of the newer ones that we're bringing on board. But basically, people that have unique content that they want to distribute out to our network of end users, they sort of ride our rails on there, and that's an area that we're investing in. And then specifically the stuff that we're planning on talking about today is kind of all the way over to the right with our proprietary data. So our grain price indexes, basis indexes, production forecasts, and yield forecasts. These are all kind of novel and innovative things that we've been working on, and we're excited to distribute through the DataMine platform. Just a little bit of detail around what those basis indices look like. So we transform prices from over 4,000 elevators, right? So we help those grain elevators take their prices, push them out to their end users, and negotiate physical contracts with that. And we take all that information for over 4,000 elevators, and we combine them into fair value indexes for price and basis. And how we do that is basically it's throughput weighted, so we know generally how much grain is moving through an individual elevator. We know what their prices are, and we can weight that such that it represents kind of a fair value for that area. So those areas go as small or as granular as a county, and then we take it all the way up to the national level. So you're going to have a fair value for price and basis at county, the crop reporting district, the state, the region, and then at the national level. It's really powerful stuff, right? Because I can tell you really easily, what the fair value for grain is right now across a 12-month forward curve for any given county in Iowa, for example, any given crop reporting district in Iowa, Illinois, all the major grain growing regions. It's really powerful stuff in terms of benchmarking, looking at historical seasonality, and then there's quite a few different use cases that we've seen that our customers have done, right? So forward contracting, right? So how do you come up with an applicable rate to contract on a forward basis? We have fair values that pull in pricing from multiple elevators. It's really useful in terms of coming up with a price to wrap a contract around. Collateral valuation. So if I'm lending to a growing operation, I need to know what the value of the collateral is. I need to be able to forecast what the cash flows coming out of that field are going to be, and these are all helpful for that. Again, ag lending, crop insurance, build lending models that kind of have better seasonality built into them, help you forecast where things are going for that individual growing area, and they've proven to be quite useful for that customer cohort. And then better crop marketing, right? So if you have a good idea of what forward basis is, what it's looked at, like what it's looked like from a seasonality perspective, and maybe things are out of line versus seasonality. You can see that really quickly, and that allows people that are doing crop marketing to do that more effectively. If you have an idea on where basis is going to go, right? If basis is tight in one area and you think it's going to loosen up a little bit or weaken, then you can position your contracting accordingly. So really powerful stuff, and it's available for corn, beans, and wheat, and historical information is available going back to 2014. Moving into our production and yield forecasts. So these are derived using geospatial intelligence, satellite imagery. We collect it daily, and we derive these production and yield forecasts for the United States right now. And again, those are starting at the county level. So all the way down for any given county, and then all the way up to the national level. And what you're seeing right there in that chart, that's our end of season soybean yield forecast in blue. That's compared to the USDA. So you can see our line kind of updates more often, and that's because we publish new prices every day. The USDA through crop production report, and then the WASI report, they update their figures once monthly, and that's why you're seeing those large jumps there on the gray line. So really powerful stuff, because as we see the ground truth coming from satellite imagery and all the derived information that comes from that, we're able to update things more often than your traditional survey-based approach may be. And we had a really interesting year this year. Really great growing conditions. We obviously had that Derico that hit the Midwest a little while back, that impacted some of that stuff. But our forecasts are pretty steady throughout the whole growing season, and we're really proud about how those performed. And obviously we had a lot less variance than you saw in those USDA forecasts. So Just kind of an overview of what you might expect. And that's the sort of stuff that we're excited to deliver through the DataMine platform. They're available for corn and beans. And, in addition to production and yield, you can also get acres harvested, right? Yield and acres harvested, you multiply those together, you get production. So all related and all available through DataMine. Again, in terms of use cases, we've seen pretty good adoption of these for helping folks make better crop marketing decisions. If you see that the USDA is way above us, then there's a good chance that they might revise down. You can position yourselves from a contracting standpoint to capture a reasonable margin of safety in terms of how you contract, and then crop insurance, ag lending, being able to underwrite things more effectively by better understanding risk, and kind of where risk sits in the marketplace. So that's the data in a nutshell. Looking forward to talking about it more with the rest of the crew on here.
All right, thanks, Keith. Yeah, I've seen firsthand how much work your team has put into getting these indices live and available to users, so kudos to you guys. All right, so yeah, I'd like to transition to more of a open roundtable discussion. So, feel free, any of you guys, to jump in, and viewers, if you're interested in submitting a question and you haven't done so yet, please feel free to send that over now. So, Keith, I know you talked a lot about the different use cases and, who's really using this data. So, Tim and Keith, maybe you guys can talk more about it, but, there really is an opportunity to make, informed grain trading and marketing decisions. I would say you guys agree.
I think you're muted, Tim. Yeah.
That happens exactly once a day, so my apologies. Yeah, I definitely think there is, and the futures information is always super useful, but keep in mind that the futures market is, the way I always describe it to people is, it's like a broad macroeconomic index of what's the value of corn. But if you're an individual user or an individual producer, what really matters to you isn't what the broad value of corn is, but what the value of corn is that you can buy it or sell it at. And that's where you really have to understand basis to be able to do that. And so, when you start to think about marketing, clearly, you want to sell when futures are high, you want to buy when futures are low if you're an end user, but you need to think in terms of basis. You need to think in terms of it, in terms of the impact on the price. So if I'm looking at harvest, for example, there's probably a carry from harvest to January, but how much of that is basis? How much of that is in the board? And you also need to think of it in terms of the signal that the basis is sending to you. The way we always think about this when I was a trader is the board tells you, what delivery and what storage is worth in the delivery location, but the basis is really the tool that moves grain through the value chain. So once it goes to the elevator, it gets hedged, and they don't really care what the price goes up or down. They're looking at the spreads and they're looking at basis. And so when you get a basis structure that there's a big carry in the basis, that's saying don't move grain through the chain. When you get the market to go the other way, it's creating an incentive to do that. So if you're not looking at that when you're making marketing decisions, you're missing a tremendous amount of information. So I think having access to this, and Keith mentioned kind of, deficit basis areas and areas where there's a premium in the basis, all of that just gives you so much more information to make decisions around.
Awesome. All right, another question here for Tim. Can you talk a little bit more on how CME clients are using cash data alongside your own futures markets?
Yeah, and I just touched on it a little bit. For the commercial, they very much are basis traders. And that cash information is everything to them. If I'm, I spent a good number of years running grain elevators and facilities, and I use the futures markets to hedge. And the minute I bought something from a farmer, it got hedged. The minute I sold it on the other side, the hedge got lifted. And we traded basis. So all we thought about is that cash information. We thought about it from the perspective of what carry is it giving me? We thought about it from the perspective of, hey, I own a train of corn in the middle of Nebraska? Should it go to Houston, Galveston? Should it go across Laredo to Mexico? Should it go to the West Coast? Should it go, where should it go? All of that is driven by that cash market information. So from a commercial standpoint, having your hand on that information is super, super critical. From the standpoint, this is what we're seeing more and more, from the standpoint of not commercials, but financial institutions and people who are trading that, are not actually trading the physical. What we see is a lot of really smart traders go, hey, there's a reason these trading companies have an edge. It's because they look at this information and historically we don't. And more you're seeing those financial traders start to look at what's the cash market telling me? What is it telling me about movement? If the basis is starting to drop, it's telling me that the cash market's seeing a lot of movement. If it's going up in particular areas, it's talking to me about geographic arbitrage opportunities. There's all sorts of these sort of things. So, very much the smarter traders have to look at this information if they really want to make good trading decisions. It's not just, what's the trend in the futures, it's what is in a very nuanced way going on in the cash markets.
No, that's 100%. We see a lot of that on our side too, Tim. We have a lot of prop trading firms, some of the largest ones, down to 2 or 3 guys that are building out their own quant strategies that are using this sort of data, and even those that aren't quant driven, right? You can look at this stuff in software. You don't need to have 10 developers on staff to be able to utilize cash market content. So we do see a lot of that, right? And if you talk about like yield and production information, a lot of the larger firms actually they've built their own models over the years. Not everybody can do that though. It's a non-trivial process to build this stuff, and that's an area where we've seen some success, right? People that want to be able to plug this sort of information into a model, whether that's our forward curves for cash or basis, or production and yield information down to the county level. You can run that through machine learning model, and you can come up with relationships between the core futures market and then the cash, right? And sometimes one may be a leading indicator, another time it may be a lagging indicator versus the other, but they are highly related, and there's insights to be gleaned by working with both data sets.
And you hit on something that's really amazing. 20 plus years ago, I worked for a fairly large institution trading company, and we spent a lot of money on systems to be able to have the data capability that something like DataMine does, and to be able to capture the kind of system, the information that you capture, and put those together and be able to do that analytics. We consider that a huge edge in our ability to do those things. But here, the average customer, between what we're doing and what you're doing, can do that. They don't have to make those huge investments in infrastructure to be able to do that. They want DataMine, or they want information, it's on DataMine. They want to pull different information from different sources, it's there. They want real-time information, they can look at your platform. They can see those things. And that has just made, it has closed the information gap between the people who used to have this huge information advantage and the much more moderate institution or trader who can now access that information.
Yeah, and it's not even just, oh, go ahead, David, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, just to complement kind of what Tim is trying to assist and really kind of make that point there, is that to some degree, one of our goals here is the democratization of this data, right? You don't need to own the actual physical assets, right? You don't need to be a huge conglomerate in order to be able to get additional types of insight, into where it's coming from. And that's one of our goals in really trying to get any of our own content out there. And when we identify these types of partnerships that add more color to what's going on in that particular marketplace, as the exchange, we really see our role in this as an educator, right? As an educator and as someone who can help facilitate the access to our customers, right? They have the right to determine what they want to look at and what they don't want to look at. But a lot of times, old habits die hard, and people are just used to looking at, one type of data and everything else that's out there. Really our role is to let them know that there are other things out there. And for the most part, they're not going to cost, a significant amount of investment in order to start to kind of test that out, get some insight into it. That Tim was mentioning before, when you have these firms that believe they have to do all of this in-house, right? And there's only a few that can do it. So.
One thing I would add, David, is it's not just, our data versus your futures markets, right? It's not our cash versus your futures. It's, our cash data along with other cash data and adjacent data that's available through DataMine, right? So you have other ag data sets in there. They relate to ours. They also relate to your futures market. So, I mean, with the stuff that you guys are creating with this kind of like marketplace for, commodity markets is a really cool thing.
Couldn't have said it better myself, actually.
You're paying me, so.
Look, we very much believe in that vision. I think that's one of the wonderful things here is all of us at this table have the same vision of, and I love that term, democratization of the data. It's providing that availability to people to use these tools to trade. And, you can look at DataMine and go, hey, I want to try this information. Is it something that's going to help me trade? Maybe it's not. That's fine. You haven't had to make that huge investment to go build that infrastructure yourself to capture it. Or maybe there's something that is, and but it just makes it so much easier to access this. Our vision is very much not just, hey, here's where you trade, but also how can we make you a better trader? And in particular, and this is really close to my heart in terms of businesses, how can I make you a better risk manager? How can you make better risk management decisions? Because ultimately that's super important to us, is ensuring that our commercial customers have access to risk management products and can make good risk management decisions.
All right, thanks guys. Real interesting stuff. David, this one's for you. I received this question from a viewer. How would you say the data from Barchart aligns with what's currently available on DataMine today?
I think he's hit on it a little bit. I think we are building an ecosystem to some degree, right? It's not all, it's interesting. I think probably about 2017, we really kind of sat down and we said, hey, we think we've built a platform for our own content. There's a whole lot of other content that's out there that's happening in the world that is going to continue to evolve, right? And it's going to change over time. And, Keith hit upon some of it with satellite imagery or other different types of forecasts that might be out there. But, there's things like sensor data. I mean, there's a million different types of things that are out there. We didn't want to kind of take that path to say, hey, we're going to put anything and everything on here, right? We want to kind of vet these partnerships. We want to look at their content. We want to analyze it ourselves. We want to look for correlations in the marketplace and relevance before we decide to move forward, and we continue to do that. So we are fairly selective in who we put on there. But per what we've discussed before, we believe there's a bigger picture that's out there, right? And Tim mentioned it as well, is that, you want to be informed, right, of kind of what's going on in the marketplace. And as these markets change, and they seem like they change so much faster than they ever did in the past. Data really is the lifeblood of that, right? And that's not specific just to the financial industry, right? That's almost across any business these days. And really, as we said before, our goal is just to make sure that people are aware of what's there, and hopefully are putting it in a format that's a little bit more a la carte and allows them to be able to try it and to research it without having to make a significant upfront investment. And if there is interest there, most of these customers, they will move forward on it relatively fast, right? And they'll say that, hey, I'm definitely seeing something in this. We weren't aware that this kind of content was out there before. We need to find a way to implement this in our platform, moving forward. So, but I think as I said early on, it's a nice complement to seeing these existing historical price data. But then in addition, as we have other partnerships, specifically in the agricultural space, which we do on DataMine today, it gives a fuller picture of kind of truth and what's happening out there.
Okay, a few more questions from the audience here. What ways can I access data from DataMine? Are there sample files or trial subscriptions available for the data sets?
I'll take it, I guess. The way you can access data, we have a number of different methods to access the content within DataMine. we, depending on the content itself and how large the files are, it can actually just be downloaded through a web browser. And in some of these files probably could if they're CSV and human readable. But we also have a DataMine API. It's a RESTful API. We have traditionally SFTP, but then for larger amounts of data, we actually do AWS S3 transfer. So, there's a number of different mechanisms for us to be able to deliver that content to you as it pertains to Barchart, and really for almost any data set that's on DataMine. We do offer trials. So if you're interested in that, almost any data set we have on there, we give 30-day move forward trials where you can get the sort of daily data that comes through. And then depending on the data set too, we might have history that we can involve in that trial to give the customer a good sense of what the file structure is, the type of content that comes in there, and then give them some sort of like a price history to allow them to do their analysis before they decide to kind of move forward with a paying subscription.
All right.
That's really cool, Dave. I know our clients love having choice as delivery method. We make our data available over API, but that's not what everybody wants, right? People want FTPs. They want it over the web browser. They want it in software. You got to give clients choice, and I mean, you guys do a great job of that. So that's really cool. I was actually curious, in terms of what you guys are doing with like the Next integration, like, is there a plan for any of that data to be available over DataMine at some point?
A decent amount of that's available today. I think the majority of what's not there yet is, the majority of what's not there today is some of our EBS and our FX content. But we do continue, the plan is for DataMine to be really any and all of CME, BrokerTech, EBS historical data eventually will be available all through CME DataMine. One other thing I will mention is that as we add more content onto the platform, we are looking at different kind of futuristic ways of how we'll make it available as well. And we are planning to launch what we'll call a query API, where customers will be able to come in and potentially access subsets of data sets and combine them together through queries that they do in the future. But this is more of a 2021 launch in the first half of there. But that gives folks even more of an opportunity to combine some of the traditional market price data with data like the Barchart's providing on DataMine as well.
That's cool.
All right. Well, I believe that's all the questions we've received for today. Happy to keep chatting if there's anything anyone wants to add here.
Oh, I just saw one come through for Tim, Kelly. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, just saw that. Are there research papers on CME's site on using this type of data and trading strategies? The person asking is from a prop shop.
So we have a number of research papers that have been written by our research team. I don't know that there is very specifically one that addresses the data that's available here and how to use it.
Yeah, I can touch on this a little bit. We do have a white paper available for the data. You can get it by going to barchart.com/cmdty, and we actually have a section for white papers in the top menu drop down. So it's under resources, but we did run a model on this that talked about how folks can, when there's a particularly large spread between our yield forecasts and USDA forecasts, it used real life data and basically simulated what the anticipated USDA revision would be, and what the impact would be to corn or beans within a couple minutes after the USDA announcement. And I won't spoil the surprise. I mean, it's a long weekend coming up next week, so but it's worth checking out. It's really cool, and it hits on some of the use cases. So it's not just like a trader at a prop shop, but it also talks about how somebody that's doing crop marketing or ag lending or any of these other kind of like adjacent industries can use that sort of information to make better decisions. And I do have another plug. if you do go check out our white paper, we have another white paper on our basis forecast, which, you know, it's not just the basis index, so that forward curve, but we actually forecast basis out. And it takes it one step further, right? So if you use our basis indexes, you can create your own, you know, historical seasonality curve and build your own forecasting models for that. But we actually ran that through our own kind of machine learning algos, and we do it at scale for the entire country. So we do make those basis forecasts available from months 3 to months 12, and you can say, hey, like, is basis rich or poor, and I'm going to make a decision based on that. So that's also on our website. So check that out, and I would suspect that there's a potential for that to be on DataMine at some point in the future too.
All right, guys. Well, again, those are the only questions I have seen come through. So unless anyone has anything else they want to quickly submit, you can do that now. But otherwise, yeah, I'd just like to thank the three of you, Tim, David, and Keith, for joining us today, as well as all of our viewers who have tuned in. If anyone's interested in learning more about DataMine or want to check out all of the awesome data that they have available through their platform, including Barchart's data, you can visit datamine.cmegroup.com. And for anyone who would like to learn more about Commodity by Barchart, you can visit our website at barchart.com/commodity. That's spelled CMDTY. And you could take a look at all of the different solutions and tools we have available for grain professionals on there. So yeah, with that, again, I'd just like to say thank you for joining us. And we hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.